It's Retro Podcasts with your host, Retro Lion. We talk music, entertainment, films, and more. And now, here he is, live, Retro Lion. Welcome back to Retro Podcast. I am the host, Ben Sina. Today we have Michael Day with us. He is a filmmaker. He is going to be talking about his new movie, Clawfoot. Mike, welcome to Retro Podcast. It's great to have you.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So Clawfoot, it's now available on streaming. And what is the movie about?
Yeah, so it's like a little psychological thriller. It's like a dark comedy psychological thriller about what appears to be a trophy wife, stay-at-home wife that is very meticulous and just kind of, has that life in a grand big house. And then she starts getting kind of terrorized by a contractor who's there to do some renovations on the bathroom. And it's one of those situations where, like, this is one of the things that, always frustrates me. It's like, why'd you let him in the house? She lets him in the house. But we find out later, she has her own skeletons in the closet and her own thing going on, which is why she did let him in. And so it's a cat and mouse game between her and this contractor trying to figure out who knows what, because there's a lot more under the surface. It's not just about a renovation. There's a lot more, an underworld, conspiracy happening that she's dealing with.
So
it slowly reveals itself as the movie transpires.
So this film, I mean, it's not just about one guy being obsessed with a woman. It becomes back and forth, like there's too many twists and turns.
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah. When I watched the trailer, I was getting the vibes of that movie that Jennifer Lopez did, where there was like, I couldn't remember the name of it, but there was like a guy that was really obsessed with her and was doing everything he can to be with her.
Oh yeah, this one, not necessarily like obsessed like that, more of like he's just up to something and you don't know what. And then, like I said, as the movie progresses, you start to see that he's doing business with her husband, and it's like when they're all kind of doing dirty business together, and so she doesn't know who she can trust, and that's why she thinks he's in bed with her husband, and turns out he kind of is. And so it's just a big cat and mouse of like, how much can I say? What can I reveal? And how do I get out of this alive?
Mm-hmm. And what's amazing about this film is that, I mean, you worked with the actors that you worked with. They have famous parents. So what was that experience?
Yeah, I mean, that was super intimidating. I'd say, just meeting them and just like, they come from, royalty, like Hollywood royalty, being the son of Mel Gibson and daughter of Clint Eastwood. But like they're totally like the most down to earth, like you would never know that. It was so crazy. And yeah, they were there just to make a film, and like we got along great, and they were down to get their hands dirty. Like you can see Francesca is obviously willing to get as bloody as possible. And we just had a lot of fun, and yeah, they just had no ego, nothing about them, and just came to do hard work, and we had a great time and made a great film.
Nice. Well, I haven't seen the movie yet, but don't worry, it's on my list to watch. Yeah. And where was the film? Like, where was it filmed?
So we filmed that here, just in LA, just like a little north in Santa Clarita, which is kind of like the country, I guess, of LA.
And was it an independent film, or was it done by an independent production company?
Yeah, we had an independent production company, Yale Entertainment. They're based out of New York. They financed it, produced it.
So kind of like A24 almost.
Yeah, exactly.
Very cool. And you also worked on some other films. You worked on Top Gun Maverick, and you also worked on Iron Man 3. What were your experiences working on both of those movies?
Yeah, I mean, those were great experiences. It's just a whole other level because you're working on like a studio film. So it's just like the crew is massive, and it had a great budget. So like you're just throwing money at everything. You're just making and you're like the best workers, the best sets. I mean, but the funny thing is, working on that, then you're working on these indies, you kind of see that you deal with the exact same problem. It doesn't matter how big the budget is or, who the actor or the director or, crew is, you literally have the exact same problems they have to deal with. And so it's interesting because, I saw how, they dealt with these problems on these massive films, and now I'm just dealing with the same problems on a much smaller scale. And it was just great learning from them. You know, it's just like, you got to keep your head cool. You still have a schedule to keep, and you still got to keep on budget. And so it just kind of, I just like, that's one thing I learned from them was just, yeah, like, this is part of the job, dealing with the headaches. There's always going to be fires. And the best thing you can do is just kind of just keep her cool about it and figure out the best solution and just make sure that everyone's safe in the meantime. And so, yeah, so I learned a lot of just like, you know, how to handle, yeah, how to deal with problems more than anything. Because there's, you know, there's tons of problems every day.
And if I'm allowed to ask, what was the biggest problem you dealt with on making a film or helping another person with a film?
You know, I mean, I mean, there's always, I guess it's kind of like a loaded question, I guess. I mean, like the biggest problem is always like sometimes it's like just dealing with you know, the schedule. I'd say it's like, you know, that's always, I'd say that's always the biggest problem. I'd say is like you have X amount of days to film a movie, but you only want more. And so it's like you can't afford more of those. So in the same with Clawfoot, it was like, you know, we had 14 days. So it's like, how do we back into that number when there's some days when you're filming like 10 to 12 pages and like these actors just have to memorize, yeah, like 12 pages of dialogue and just each day and do it all over again. So while doing all the action stuff too. So it's, I think that's always the biggest thing is it's just, you know, the schedule is always the biggest hurdle of, especially on these indies. You just never have enough time and you really can't afford to ever get behind schedule because you're like on the bigger studio ones, like you miss a day or something, like it's too expensive and I'm sure they're not happy, but they have the resources. Okay, we'll figure it out. And on these indies, you really don't have the resources. Like we have 14 days, like we either hit our mark or we don't. And one way or another, we have to make a movie.
Fully understood. And from working on Iron Man 3, because of course we all know that Robert Downey Jr. was Iron Man throughout the Iron Man films and the Avengers and Civil War. Well, the internet went viral a few weeks ago. He made his comeback to the MCU, but he's not Iron Man. He's Doctor Doom.
Really? Yeah.
What was your reaction when you heard that news?
I was like, well, how's that going to happen? Like, I was just like, I mean, I love it. I love him. And I was like, I'm excited to see him in that role. And then the logic's like, wait, how are they going to explain that? Or are they going to explain that? Are they going to act like this is the whole new thing? But I'm like, I'm super excited to see him go. Because like, they wouldn't have him unless they had a great plan and they had, you know, a great story to tell. So I'm really excited to see how it turns out because I'm a big fan.
Well, in the comics, there was a story where in another universe, Iron Man became Doctor Doom. So it could either be Iron Man became Doctor Doom, or it could just be Doctor Doom played by the same actor. Because in spoiler, in Deadpool Wolverine, wait, can I tell you?
Yeah, I just saw it last weekend. Love it.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't want to spoil it, but
No, it's
in Deadpool Wolverine, Chris Evans made an appearance not just as Captain America, but also as the Human Torch.
right.
It was proven that an actor could play more than one character, but in a different universe. You could have the same person, but he's different person.
Yeah. So I guess I didn't know about that storyline with Doctor Doom. So yeah, I mean that probably solved it. And now I mean he's such a great actor and he's always so good in those roles. So it'll be fun to see him as like, yeah, the villain now.
I can't wait to see how the other Avengers are going to react.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm really hoping for some humorous moments in the next two Avengers movie they have coming out with Doctor Doom. They're gonna be like, "Stark, are you back?" And then I'm like, I don't know who that is.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
I think that's Disney's plan is to bring in some humor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it seems, you know, the funnier they make them, like, they seem to do really well that way. It's a nice mix of action and comedy.
And back to filmmaking, what was your biggest inspiration for wanting to go into that field?
I mean, to me, I traced it all back to the movie The Matrix, actually. That was a
Movie.
yeah, I mean, it was such an amazing movie. I remember I was over at my cousin's house. He had it on VHS, and that was the first time we got to watch it. I only got halfway through it, and I was just mesmerized. And this is around the time DVDs were coming out. And I never got to finish the movie. I was saving up for a DVD player, and I got The Matrix was my first DVD then. It was the only DVD I had. So I just watched it over and over again. And that's when I first started watching like behind the scenes. And so that's when I was like, oh, that's a job for people. I didn't realize that. Like that's you can make a living making movies. And I was like, I want to do that. And then I mean, just from there, I was like, that's what I'm gonna do. And just been playing along ever since.
And what is the biggest advice that you would pass on to future filmmakers?
Yeah, I mean, it's that thing where like I hear like if James Cameron and Steven Spielberg, I hear them all say it, and it's true. It's just go out and make it, go out and make stuff. Buffalo was my first feature, and I found funny, but like up until then, like I've done tons of shorts just with my friends, tons of web series, music video stuff where like no one like where we're just putting our own money up to get it done, and it went nowhere. But I mean, I'm so glad I did all those things because I mean, if you look at my first stuff versus my last, like it was horrible how I started off, and you do just get better and better and just understand how the process works. And so yeah, like I mean, I know it's corny, but I'd say just keep going out and making stuff, and just don't give up, and hopefully it pays off.
Hey, you don't know what the future holds.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes. And in film, if there's anything like with a new project you have coming up, if there's anything you could challenge yourself with, what would it be?
The challenge for me is still like is more action stunts and stuff. Like I want to get better at directing that and stylizing that more. So that's definitely a challenge I want to take on. It's just like heighten the action sequences. Like you look at like Michael Bay stuff. Like I don't know if he'd go that far, but like there's some really cool stuff he does in there. And obviously in Clawfoot we had a little bit of action, and that was really that was a lot for me to take on. And my best friend Andrew was the producer and like stunt coordinator. He comes from the stunt world too, so it's also great having him as a resource because he just lives and breathes that world. But like going through the experience, like this is a challenge for me. I definitely need to push myself more on this level, and so that's what I'd like to do in the future.
I love the idea.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of talk about how AI has been destroying art world and art. Like, do you worry about AI involving your position or not so much?
Yeah, no, for sure. Because I mean, like, it's kind of scary how simple you can just like type in something and it did. I mean, yeah, like I mean, pretty soon you won't need like don't need writers, don't need animators, don't need directors. Like a studio can just like type in something and it will just pump something out. That's definitely like very scary to see how quickly it will be replaced. So yeah, I've definitely been keeping up on everything, researching it, and just trying to you know obviously it's not going away. So I think the best thing you can do, is find a way to work with it, I guess, and so that's kind of my way. Like, okay, well, if this is the new reality, this is the future. How do I position myself to make sure that I don't get lost in the shuffle and that, I'm part of the change? If this is what the change is going to be, how do I get at the forefront of it?
And for filmmakers and artists in the SAG union or just that part of the union, is there a way that they could tell what is real and what's not real?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, it's getting definitely harder and harder to distinguish the difference. So, like, I mean, I'm sorry. The one thing I'm starting to see in contracts, especially with cast, there's like a hard line in the contract saying you cannot do anything without my permission with AI, whatever. So I think you're going to see more legal language pop up and just to protect everyone that way. Like, because I mean, it's pretty soon. I don't know how we'll be able to tell the difference. It's kind of scary.
Uh, this one is still difficult to define, but in some ways you can tell, in some ways you can't. But when it comes to like those deep fake videos that people like on social media, like TikTok, there was a couple. There was one of Tom Hanks, and then there was one of Tom Cruise, and it got a lot of views because people thought it was actually them. But when you look very carefully, you could tell it's not really them. It's someone impersonating them with that deep fake AI.
With that technology. Yeah.
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 And we are coming down to the end of the interview, and we have two questions. My dear mom, who I love very much, wants to know, do you and your wife have a favorite board game that you enjoy?
Oh, board game. We play cards more than anything, I'd say.
Games?
Yeah, we're more into card games than board games. Yeah. But if I was to pick a board game, I love Monopoly. Even though it takes forever, I don't know. I just love my game. So I don't even.
Have you played Uno?
Yeah, playing that with my nieces and nephews. That's a fun game too. Yeah. Yeah.
There's you probably haven't heard of this, but there's a card game. It's an older one. It's still my favorite to this day. We haven't played it in a while, but it's called Sleeping Queens. It was I played it a lot when I was a kid, but I can remember it well. The can't remember how you went, but it involved different themed kings. There was a cookie king, there was a bubblegum king, there was a sun and moon king. Oh wait, no, that was the queen. There was like different kings and queens. It was kind of like, I would say, a Met Gala, but for in the medieval time. And then there'd be like dragon card and sleeping drink card, and there'd be magic card.
Yeah, I gotta check that out. Yeah.
I think you had to get like 5 of the same cards in order to win. I haven't played it in years, so I don't know. But that's definitely a game I would recommend, is Sleeping Queen.
Sleeping Queen. Okay, yeah, I'll check that out. Thanks.
And since this is a retro show, did you have a favorite not retro product growing up?
Oh, yeah, I guess I don't know if you call it retro. I'm still like, me and my buddies still say we'll bring out the old Nintendo 64 and play GoldenEye, you know, like just on Friday night. Hey, let's come over, have some pizza, we'll play some Nintendo 64. Like, I don't know why, like, we still love,
Perfect.
yeah, like, there's something about that we love. So,
That's heaven.
yeah. And then me and my other buddy, we have like the digital Super Nintendo or Nintendo NES one. They just plug in and play old school Mario Brothers, and so we just try to beat it all in one run if we can, and we have fun doing that too.
When my parents started dating, every night they came home, it would be Nintendo, of course,
Yeah.
Nintendo game. And then it was either Fridays or whatever nights the X-Files was on, they would just get pizza and watch X-Files.
That's perfect. That'd be great Friday night. Yeah,
Hey, it was the 90s. That's what we did. Where
exactly.
nowadays we just all have these sad, like,
Right. Yeah, and just like looking down all day.
yeah. One last question I do have to ask, from what you were telling, what you and your friends did back then, and what you still now do. In today's world, with technology growing and everything being so different, with smartphones and iPads and computers, like, how much of an impact do you think today's world is with technology then versus how people socialize in the 90s and how people socialize today? How do you think there's a, like, what's your stance?
It's interesting because like there's this, it's so different because everyone now that interacts feel like online and stuff. Um, and it's really interesting because I was out with my niece and she's just 17, and she completely multiple times, like we'd go out and do something with my wife and I would take her out to like I forget what we were doing, shopping or something, and she would forget her phone every time. And I was like, that's so weird because like I just thought all these kids were just like hooked on their phones, and like she is when she's at home, but then also she forgets it too all the time too. And I kind of noticed that where it's like it seems like they just have less friends and they have a few more closer ones. And then when they are home, they're just online, texting all day long or whatever. And but when they go out into the real world, they kind of forget about their phone. And it was a weird, even like viewpoint, just seeing like someone, yeah, like 17, just always forgetting her phone. But then when she is at home, she's on it 24/7. And so it was so weird. So it's like, but I feel like that's just how they have a small group of people from what I'm seeing. And they, yeah, I mean, like small, closer knit group, but then they're still on the social media with all these other people that don't even know. So it's a weird, Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely different. Whereas in the '90s, like all the kids would just run outside and hey, you had a bike. Hey, we're friends now. Let's just cruise around the neighborhood. It's very different.
Yeah, I feel like back when we were in the COVID pandemic, it really changed a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it definitely like made everything different. Yeah, it's a whole new world now. It feels like.
Do you prefer to be in person more or online or a bit of both?
Yeah, I'm still old school. I like to do things in person, I guess. Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I'm only 24, but I prefer both in person and some little things online I prefer, but most everything I'm more of an in person kind of guy.
Yeah, same. I guess like that. I like that personal interaction like that. It just yeah, I don't know, it's more fun for me.
Yeah. Well, Mike, thank you again for joining today's interview. And Watch Clawfoot is available on streaming.
Hey, thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on Spotify and follow us on Instagram. See you next week.